record on this. Okay, so I assume that everybody's online now. Good afternoon, everybody. Hopefully you've all seen my warm-up slide here, which is the one with the umbrellas and the Peter Lynch quotation. So good afternoon, everybody. So let's quickly go through this. Yeah, this is our usual disclaimer for the income SIG. We're based here in Portland, Oregon. And, you know, you should take everything we say here with a grain of salt because we're not professionals and we have not done our due diligence. So by all means, anything you hear here should be taken with a grain of salt, as I say, and please do your due diligence. And, you know, as I keep saying at every meeting, we are here primarily to talk about income, not necessarily capital gains, but that's nice to see that we can have capital gains, but we're here primarily for a stream of income. So, you know, primarily we're aiming at an audience that is, you know, approaching retirement or in retirement and wanting to get some nice cash flow coming into their pocket, so to speak. Okay, so here's our agenda for today. Ron, I'm going to ask Ron to walk through how he uses Value Line, and then Rich, I'll turn it over to you, and you can do your thing with the Value Line screener. So, and then, you know, Ron, do you want to answer questions right after you do your presentation? How do you want to deal with that, you know?
It's up to you. Don't know if it'd be easier to do it then than it would to wait until Rich and I are both have done it. That's a good question. I don't know the answer. Okay,
well, let's people will often think about something right after you've presented. So yeah. We'll do Q&A between both sessions. So let's do it that way. All right, so let me stop sharing here. And Ron, you're free to share.
Okay, let's see what happens. Is the library up?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Just take a second to explain what I'm going to show you how I use Value Line, not to necessarily try to convince you that's the best way. I started using Value Line in 1979, and the only reason I know exactly when it happened was I had started a new job, and I walked in on Monday morning and was talking to the company president, and what he was doing was filing his Value Line, and I said, "What's that?" And he said, here's last week's that I'm taking out. Take this one and go home and read it. And so I did it. I became a disciple instantly. And so I'd say that's how I happened to know when I started using it. So I go back to the printed one, and what Rich is going to show you is the one that's online that was never available in the printed era. So it's my quick go through. I spend about a half an hour every Saturday going through what I think is necessary for me. And my feeling about that is if you do this on a regular basis, you are only looking for change, which is why it doesn't take much time. You can sit and read Value Line like a novel, but to me that's a waste of time. I merely look at what is changing. So, okay, so if you come into this screen, then you can click on Research and go to Research Tools. Personally, this is the one that I have bookmarked, is Purchase Tools. Is on into Research, as just saving me a step of having to come in. And so then out to Value Line and begin using and sign in. And here we are. So got to get the silly, got to get you guys out of my way. So, okay, so here's the lineup, and I would suggest again, if you're not familiar with Value Line and you like what I'm doing versus what Rich is doing, you might want to take some time to go to the library and actually go through the printed one so that you really understand what this list of stuff is talking about. Otherwise, you're kind of stumbling, as it were. So the current issue, I put this big pointer on so that hopefully you can see where I am. The VLIS current issue, that is 1/13 of the Value Line area, what they cover. And so every 14 weeks you get a new version, and everything being equal, it will be the same list of stocks 14 weeks from now that is on there. Yes, they have some come and some go, but nominally it'll be the same list 14 weeks from now. The one caution I would offer you is if you go in on Saturday, this will not have been updated. I don't understand it, but that's just the way it works. So I typically come back on Sunday to look at this. So I will take you through the way I normally go, which is to go up to the summary and index, and I'll click on that and bring it up, and we can walk our way through this. Always check the date. The date is the following Friday. Always. So work on down through. There isn't much on here. What I also do that you might find interesting is I download this each week, and I have a shortcut on my desktop, and I have it handy. I don't have to come out through the library if I want to look something up real quick. I just do a dump and download it. So as you see here, it is an alphabetical index of the stocks and information. So what I'm seeking is at the bottom, and so I'll pull all the way to the bottom. And it's long and ugly because it's about 1,500 stocks. And the first thing I would look at then each week really would be this. And what I'm looking for are the little arrows, as in what is going up in their system and what is going down. So public and private equity is going down, recreation is going up, automotive, toiletries, cannabis down, telecom equipment down, computer peripherals down. That's just kind of general information for what they think is moving. Another thing that I need to bring up, Andy reminded me when he was doing his intro, Value Line doesn't really waste a lot of time on income. They are a momentum system looking for momentum. So what I'm trying to do is to maximize the use of their system with income in mind. Okay. The next thing is this up and down for the week. These are the changes in the two top sections. When they say dynamism, it means the company did absolutely nothing. This is strictly their algorithm deciding who is important and who isn't. Ergo, in this particular instance, it's not worth reading. You will occasionally see one here that says this one went from 2 to 1 because their earnings died, because the president of the company resigned, whatever. They will give you some information. The next thing I look at fairly cursorily, but it's still of importance, since I am looking for income, but I'm also looking using their system. I'm looking for the growth that they are defining. So what I do is I look in the right-hand corner, the right-hand column. This, by the way, is their list of industries in their ranking. So internet is number 1, e-commerce is number 2, etc. And what I look for, because you can see it really easy, is I look for the large number. There's 115 to 200%. That's the growth that they see for this stock. Well, I think that's interesting in that it seems to me, if I'm seeking income, I want somebody that's also going to go somewhere instead of just laying around for a couple of years. And so I look for the large numbers, and you'll notice very little income is associated with it. Okay, the yield is zilch. So if you come over here, Comcast will bless you with 1.9, and Nexstar will bless you with 1.8 in the entertainment area. Intel is going to grow 100 to 140%, will give you 2.8, etc. And so I do just a cursory look through here, and don't be stunned when you don't see a whole lot of mention of income stocks, because the purpose of this list is not income. It is their growth system working. So I'm just looking at it on when are they going to give me income based on what I'm doing. Okay, so there's usually 2 screens of that as they come on down to the first 35. This time it's the first 35. So here's the first real page. These are the ones that are #1 in their system. So those are the stocks that they think are going crazy in the next 12 months. And so again, doing this as rapidly and cursorily as I do, I go through quickly, looking at see the little square? They're small, but there's the little squares. That tells you it's a new one this week. The other thing that you would see in this week's, I cheated and already looked at this. This week does not have any moving from 2 to 1. So you won't see any up arrows. If you see up arrows, that's fine. Look at those because they're the equivalent. These are the ones that have arrived from another rating. So what I do with all of those, the first thing is I just look at the income column, which is the far right numeric column, and essentially we don't have much here. Piper Sandler will give you 2.2. Progressive is nil, and as you see, there's not a whole lot that is there. Here's 2.5 from J.P. Morgan Chase down here. So that's the quick pass through. Who's arriving? I always look at by name. Who's coming in? Is there anybody I know? Is there anybody I think I'm interested in? And then the first thing I look at is the income value. Okay, the deletions is not terribly important. You can go past that because they're going to show up on the next screen. These are the #2s in their rating. And there are 2 pages of 2s. There's 1 page of 1s, 2 pages of 2s. And so what you look for is up arrows, because the down arrows you've already been told about up above. Those are the ones that are coming from 1 down to 2. So they're, to me, of no interest. So again, here's AbbVie moving up at 4.8. Hello, that's going to be, although I happen to already own it. But anyway, that's what I look for. And I go down through the who's arriving that will be of interest, that it is moving up in their system, which means it's going to have more growth as a stock. And I personally, again, do not seek capital gain. I mean, I'll always take them, but I don't seek capital gains. I seek income on a regular basis. Okay, so I just start down through the system, and like I say, there's 2 pages of them. You work your way on down through them, and just look what's interesting and what's not. Again, forget the down arrows; they're out of here. They're not really very important. At the bottom here, these are all the ones that have dropped to at least 3. You may want to go through here and see if any of your favorites are sinking. I mean, here's Boeing going down, for instance, to 3, etc. Now, the 3 deletions are the ones you really want to lock on, because in the value line system, 4 is the kiss of death. So if it's dropped out of 3, as far as they're concerned, it's on the way to the tank, and they're no longer interested in it. And you'll notice Entergy and ExxonMobil are on here, as is Deere, etc. So I always look at these very closely to see who's, in their eyes, dying. I use their rating system as a guideline, not as an absolute. If you read the literature that they put out, they will explain to you why buying all the ones will make you money over the years because of their superior. And I accept it at face value that it's true, but it to me has only the value in that I would rather buy a 1 yielding 3% than a 5 yielding 3. Because it means the stock itself has more of a chance of also giving me a capital gain, which I obviously love to have if I can get it, okay? Now, after these pages, you drop into the safety ranking. Now, that's another thing that I use on the, when I'm choosing a stock. Again, I look at the income to see what it is, but over here, we'll just take AT&T. That's been a heavy one talked about this week, so we'll stay there. That's a good place to go. There's AT&T. So this says it is a 1 in safety, because everything on this page is a 1 in safety. It is a 3 in timeliness, and 3 in timeliness in their system means it will just follow the market. It will go neither up nor down. It will just follow the market. So that's, being a 1 gives me confidence. I am willing to purchase most anything on the 1 page because of its, they're telling me the financial stability, which is always good. I mean, AT&T, you kind of know yourself, but on the ones where you don't, this will give you some information. Okay. So there's a page 1, and then you go into the 2s. These are the 2s for relative safety, which are, again, the better ones, and they're a little more than 1 page worth. So at that point, then, I drop down into this particular screen right here, the highest dividend yielding stocks, and I start down the list, but I don't read the names. I start down the number of timeliness. The dash means it is being unrated for timeliness. And that is usually if something has happened to the stock that they don't feel they have enough information to rate it is where they're going. So we start off with I have Anale, which is a 5. Hello. I have Liberty All-Star. I have a ton of both of them. Which are very high yielders, as you see. I've had both of them for quite a while. It's not a brand new purchase. So if you're thinking of a brand new purchase, you drop on down and you look for, again, how is it rated? But in my mind, then the next thing you look at is what is the safety ranking, and you notice a lot of these rate 3 and below. So 3 is the highest number you want to tolerate. And so you won't see very many 1s. In fact, I don't think this week there's a single 1 in this column. I think there is a 2. Yeah, Enbridge is a 2. It's a 4 and a 2. I happen to own Enbridge. It is a 2. All the rest of these are 3 or below. Again, if the number is greater than 3, you probably don't want to waste a whole lot of time looking at it. So this one, this Altus Midstream, which I know nothing about, is rated a 3. So as a stock, they think it will hang in there with the market, but it's got a 5 safety rank. And since all I'm looking at is what they can send me, I don't know that I'm that interested in them. So I stop here. This weekly thing goes on with, just list after list after list, which I would suggest you probably want to go through the first time you do this, just to see what it is that they're offering, available to you. Okay. So after I've gone through this and again done the download, then I come to the next one, which is actually what I do. I'll really do it in the order I do it. Then I go to the small and mid-size. I don't spend much time in the small and mid-size. I just download it so that I have it available if something comes up, I hear something on CNBC or whatever, and decide, who is that? And the main one doesn't have it. Frequently, the small and mid cap will have information about it, and I can get some information. I use this just as a source of general information. I don't shop off of it, as it were. The selection and opinion is the, which I'm going to click on this, the second one. This is the little weekly newsletter, if you will, that comes out and explains just generalized information. So the first thing you want to look at, really, again, you get how much time you want to spend reading this, that's up to you. I look at the conclusion. When the conclusion is kind of just general wording, it means they haven't seen anything that's spectacular, and I keep going. Okay. Then we're into the model portfolios. I happen to know that none, again, I cheated and looked, none of these have changed. And again, I'm only looking for the changes. And so normally it's at the end of each of the paragraphs that they will tell you whether or not there's a change. And you can also tell sometimes because the first sentence will say, we're removing X, I'm going to replace it with Y. So here's just the write-up on those. So then here are the lists themselves. Again, personally, I don't print much of this out, but a lot of it can be printed out without having to print hundreds of pages. You can get a lot of in other words, the first two portfolios are on one page, so is number 3 and 4. So on a double-sided sheet, you can get all 4 of their portfolios available. Each one has a different philosophy. Above average year ahead appreciation. Here's income and potential of price appreciation. So these are more what you and I would probably call the standard growth stocks. Then this one down here is the long-term appreciation. These are more the value stocks. And this is my terminology, not theirs, that you'd be looking at. And then the last one is the one you may be interested in because it's the one that talks about the honking big dividends that are available. And this is about all the homage that Value Line really pays to dividend yield. So you can see who's here and are you interested, are you not interested, and they give you the safety rank rather than the performance rank. And then here, again, here's the financial strength to look at, which is all, I think, important. And then there's the dividend. So then we're down into the newsletter itself. And these earlier pages here are identical each month. Those are the standard pages that come in. And so here's just a group of what they call long-term gain stocks. And you can, again, I just look for the, who are they seeing? Anybody here that's new, anybody I care about, and I go on. And this is a long discussion. They have this once a quarter, I think, this sector analysis. And this tells you what they think of each individual sector and what its value is in the long run. This is something, don't memorize it, don't worry about it, but you need to understand how fine the breakdowns are. So for instance, for utilities, right, there's 8 breakdowns that are called utilities. So, you and I talk about utilities, we may not be getting all the way to oil and gas distribution. That may be a little far out for us as far as thinking that's where that belongs there rather than in energy. So you need to kind of be able to align yourself with the way they think about these items. Okay, then you got income stocks with worthwhile total return. This is kind of interesting because it says, hey, good earnings now, and we think these stocks are going to grow well in the future. So again, I just look for how does this change, because they put one of these out about once every 3 weeks, this particular grouping, and so it's pretty much a matter of who's new on the list. These yields, I personally pay very little attention to it, although it's an interesting compilation of data if you find something that you are in fact interested in. These insider transactions are at least nominally interesting. The purchases are their own issue. I just go down the company name to see if I care about the company. And the same with the sales. Now, the thing with the sales, and this is my opinion, the thing with the sales is to look over at the shares traded and where are we? All right, here's the guy that sold, he's a director, I think it is. He sold 35,000 shares and he retained 77. So he sold a third of his holdings. That to me has at least some interest. If I was interested in Intuit, I don't happen to be, but if I was, I would say, hold the phone here. What's happening? Up above, you got Petterfy from Interactive Brokers. He sold 80,000 out of 5 million. He just wanted to buy some furniture or something. I mean, it has no, to me, no economic meaning. He just, for whatever reason, needed some money and decided to do it. And the Nadella thing would have really rung my chimes, other than that I had read a press release before I saw this. He did this because the state of Washington is putting in a capital gains tax as of January 1, and so he sold half his holdings. Obviously a tax planning move, not so much a bet on the company. So, okay. So then I go down again through a lot of this without looking too deeply at it. This is page, the bottom of this page is kind of interesting. You just look at how are the rates changing. Here they are, recent, prior week, etc. There's the value line universe. Okay, there's 1,671 stocks in the value line universe. It changes 2 or 3 or 4 every now and then as they add and get rid of stocks, and they get rid when either interest dies or the company gets taken over by somebody or something happens that makes it no longer of interest to them. The other area I look at very carefully, although I am pretty much aware of what's going on because I spend a lot of time keeping up on it, is the new highs and new lows, again, within value line, not in the whole world, but in value line. And it's pretty dramatic. And I don't think it's a surprise to anybody that happened in the last week, since we all know what happened to the market in the last week. Over here, our financial strength changes. In other words, not rating changes, but financial strength changes. This one in particular this week does not have any. Okay, so that's what I do to this section. I get tired of all the things that Zoom is trying to do for me, and I have trouble getting to what I'm trying to do. So, okay. The next thing I do after this is I go down, let me get this back up where you can see it, to supplemental reports. And they have improved this dramatically as far as being able to look at it from what it used to be. It used to be a kind of ugly screen to use, and now it's a really pretty good one. Okay, so they give you the date that they made the change, that they posted this, and then here's the name of the company, and you can just dial on down and decide who you care about. And we got, for instance, DocuSign, and there's the write-up on what happened to DocuSign, and the last paragraph is always their opinion of what that is, what that's going to mean to them as far as their rating system. The first part is the news. The last paragraph will always be what they think they're going to do about it as far as their rating system. Okay, so again, since I do this weekly, I look at the dates and I don't bother to go back to anything that's got a date older than what I was looking at last week. In other words, I already saw this last week, whether I remember that I saw Salesforce or not. You know, it was last week. So that's the quick through that. The other thing that is available, and they have brought this up, VLIS is the quote big service, the value line, the original value line investment service. The SMC is the small and mid-size. So again, I concentrate on this. And if you click on the rank changes, it brings up it's still grunting, or is it? Oh, there we go. Okay, it was down below. So these, it's interesting. See, these are this week's changes because, you know, Friday was 3. Everything else talks about December 10, but this is 3. So if you're only interested in those moving up or down, you can click on either of these, or you can click on the all changes, which I tend to do, and it will bring up the changes for the week. And all you have to remember is that the third column is where it is now, and you can then just look at previous to see whether it went up or down. Okay, this one went up, this one went down. And so these are in alphabetical order. You can go down through the whole list and see anybody on here that that excites you. There's center point energy. I notice. I know Andy knows about center point energy. Okay, it dropped all the way to a 4. It was just hanging, dropped to a 4, which means forget it. It's as far as they're concerned. Now, again, this is the value line. You don't have to honor that. I do not follow it religiously. I use it as an indicator. They've got Caterpillar all the way to a 4. Now, it doesn't mean Caterpillar is going out of business. It just means that they think in the next 12 months, the stock will go nowhere. That's basically what they're saying. So it isn't, they're not trying to rate the company per se. Okay. So we're back out here. Now, since this is Sunday, this current issue will work. On Saturdays, it sometimes works, most of the time, no. So just be aware of that. And I come back in on Sundays. I will have done what you just saw me do, and then I will come back on Sunday and go into the current issue. Oops. This is a bad sign. When you see this one, you have been moved and it's not giving you the current issue. So let's see what happens. Try it again, see if it's me. It was me for whatever reason. So here is the current issue. What you can do, this is the one that you used to get in the mail every week and replace in your binder and throw the old one away. This is in alphabetical order. And what you can do, I want to bring to your attention, is to customize the columns, because I always do. I want to see the last closing price. And so see the ad over on the right there, you click on that and it gets put up here, and then you can grab it and move it. So now it'll come out with timeliness, safety, dividend yield, closing price, and industry. Okay, and you save that. And since as users from the library, you can save nothing, you may have to reset that. It depends on who did it before you, exactly what that's going to look like. I find that most of the people, it is satisfactory. And again, as an aside, the reason I want to see the stock price when I'm looking at this week is I have found I can make about as much money writing options as I can with dividends. So I want stocks that are down where I can buy enough of it to make the writing of an option worth it, since you have to have at least 100 shares. And I'm not willing to put more than $20,000 in any single position in the option market. So I have to have the ability to buy $20,000 worth. So Amaron right here, I'm just happened to be looking at it, is 85. So that I have $17,000 to buy 200 shares of Amaron, which I could then write calls against or have available to write puts against if I don't like the stock. Again, what I'll show you is AT&T, only because everybody knows it and everybody either hates it or loves it. Depends on your outlook. But there are, if you look up in the corner, there are 3 pages. My personal style is I always go to the last page and look there first. And the first thing I look for is, are there any ones? None here. Then I look at the dividends. Okay, Vodafone is 10. All right, I'm familiar with Vodafone and why it's there. Verizon's 4.8. TELUS is 4.4. And telephone and data systems is 386. I'm not that familiar with that particular one. So you go through, I go through from this end personally. And the main reason is because if you click on one of these, and let's just do it. We'll look at, how about Vodafone? We'll look at Vodafone. And here's the December 10th report. So it's the brand new report. And here is the 1-page value line report for Vodafone. Now, if I'm interested in this stock coming out to see what it's all about, I do this on the ones I own, which I don't own Vodafone. I do this on the ones I own. I do this on the ones that I'm interested in just to see what's going on. Am I going to change my mind? How am I going forward? So 8.1 yield. Timing is not good. I normally probably wouldn't have clicked on this. The next thing, which is new, is this midpoint. And they've got a midpoint of 18, which means they think in 18 months, this will be at 18 rather than 1488. That's their opinion. Down here is the issue of what do they think the growth is? They think it'll go to 25 to 40 in the next 3 years. And over here it's written as numbers. Over here it shows as the dashed lines. If you can see the dashed lines going across, that is where they're projecting this this will go. Okay, this line is cash flow, which a lot of people look at. That's their estimate, and up here is the legend explaining that is their cash flow, estimate for the year. And then this is the stock itself. Okay, I tend, because I'm old-fashioned, to look at whether or not there are pension overhangs, and this one does not mention pension overhangs. It's a foreign stock. This is Vodafone. Okay, here, what this is nice for is if it's a new company, you're not familiar with it, and so many companies now, the name has no meaning. You can come here and you can read what they are, give you a kind of a quick and dirty history of who and what they are. The other thing I tend to look at, which will not be true with this foreign stock, is who owns it? How much does do the mutual fund services own of it? What percentage? So then I tend personally to go right to the bottom and see what they say, and basically they're saying it's just the dividend. You're not buying it for anything else, because that's about all there is to talk about. It also quickly shows you that it's a semi-annual pay, which is again something that I'm interested in. I'd rather have monthly if I can find it. So here's another summary down here of the company's financial strength and its price stability, which is always an interesting number, because Tesla does not have a very good price stability. So that is the standard page that is in that thing that used to come in the mail, and there would be the 1/13 of the world recorded as the as the single page. Okay, so then this goes out and you go back to here, Now, what happens is you notice, and I did this deliberately so I could show you, it always brings you back to page 1, which is another reason why I always start at the end, because then it's a decreasing irritant as you come to the front. So I usually go through this, probably look at 4 or 5 stocks. It depends on, again, on whether or not I own them or whether or not I'm interested in them. So that is, and we're back to here. So now there are some other places that you might find quite interesting. Some of this is all brand new also. The climate change did not exist in the old days. That's a new one. So this is all about climate change investing. I'll take you out and show you the front page here. And you can go in and look at the current issue. And here it is. And again, you can download it or print it. What I do, again, I just try to grab information that I think I might want to look at. So I would go down here and I would grab page, I think this is page 5. I would grab page 5. I'm sorry? Oh, I would grab page 5 and I have a shortcut to that also on my desktop for taking a look at these are the ones where it's all about the climate change investing if you are interested. Okay. Another one is the special situations. That's kind of novel. I tend to only look at the new, let's see, it didn't pick up. I tend to only look at the new changes to see what's going at. I look at the report and I pull down to these two, the portfolios, to see if there's anything on the portfolio that I might be interested in. First thing I look at is yield. Tends to be zilch. And this one will have a little more yield, but still not all that much. And again, I'm looking for changes, what has changed here. They've had Ennis on here for a long time. And this is a printing company that is quite stable and throws a big dividend, but I don't think you're ever going to get rich from the stock if that's your goal in life to do it. But it's an interesting one. It's probably been on their list for a couple of years now, actually. So again, these are all reports. You can read as much of these as you want to. I mean, they are lengthy reports, all kinds of information that you want to read about. There's a lot of stuff here in this library. In fact, when I found out that I could get this stuff online without having to go to the library, I thought I died and gone to heaven, because there's a lot of stuff here and you can take as much or little time as you want to with it. I also go into the options survey, which most of you may not be interested in. So at the moment, we'll leave that off, but that's another one. So then when I'm done with what I've just gone through, I go to the browse research, and you'll notice this is kind of the default page that comes up. I think I told you that when you see this page, it doesn't want to talk to you. It sends you here because this is everything. This is the universe. So it doesn't really send you anything. So if you remembered what the company is, or the company's industry, then what you can do here is you can go into screens by industry, and you can pull up lists. Here, I'll just grab building materials arbitrarily. And here's a list of the building materials one, and now you can go and look those up. If you're interested in that particular industry. The predefined screens are also interesting if you want to go through those. The thing that I do on a regular basis, since one of my accounts I keep pretty heavily into the Dow, I go out to the Dow, and it has the information that I want across the page. And what I do then is I sort it by safety and then by timeliness. And so the number one stocks are at the top, these are the Dows that they think I should own at this point in my life. And here is its safety rating and the dividend yield and its price. The industry really is, I don't particularly care about that because I generally know already, but the reason I have it there is and then when I go to print it, it puts it on the page the way I want it stored. So you can pull to the bottom and here's good old IBM because it's not rated because of the spinoff they just did. And so here are the, you would say the fours are the turkeys. By their definition, you don't have to agree. Again, it's by their definition, who are the turkeys. Okay, and you know, there they are. So I dropped this page off with a shortcut on my front page. So that's all I normally do. I just would like to show you one other thing quickly, just so you understand how this whole thing works. So at this point, I would sign out. And it comes up and it says you have signed out. If you go to the back arrow and right click and go down to where it says research tools or research, there you go, research at Multnomah County Library. If you click there, it will take you back into what you've seen before. I then go up to Morningstar. And yes, I want to use it, but I don't have to sign in again because I'm already signed in. And as slowly as this is loading, it will eventually bring me up. Well, it didn't make it. So we'll try it again. This is really slow. No, I'm not going to make it. Okay, but the point is, I would get into Value Line, and then I download the stock and dividend newsletters. And again, I have a shortcut for them on my desktop. So I have that amount of information available to me, so I don't have to bother coming back to the library to see it. So that's what I do. And it takes me about a half an hour every weekend. Sometimes takes longer if I have a lot of stocks that I own and they're putting out fresh reports on them, because I always want to keep up with what they think. I use Value Line as a generalized guide and source of information, not as gospel on what I'm doing. I hold a lot of fours and I have a number of fives, but I know why I'm in them and when I got in and why I'm not worried about that. But that would hold me off if I was getting ready to buy new. That would be a different situation. So any question that I need to?
Ron,
Yes.
If you click the chat button down at the bottom.
I will, yes.
Yeah,
okay.
There's about 4 or 5 questions in there right now. So.
Okay, I'll take a look here.
Yeah.
At the bottom, what's the technical number? That's new and I don't use it. I got to be honest, I don't use it. If you read their literature, it'll tell you what it is. I think it is intended to be one that is strictly, technician oriented versus their fundamental that they do it.
Okay. Hey, Ron.
Yes.
Ron. Yeah, it's Rich here. Yeah, I'm familiar with that. And the technical rank, because somebody asked also about the timeliness. The technical is looking at 1 or 2 quarters. So it's what they're looking at for the next, 3 to 6 months.
Yes.
And that's what the technical rank is. But unlike the timeliness rank, it does not consider earnings. And it's only using data that looked back 52 weeks.
Okay.
And it's, again, stocks ranked 1 are the highest, 2's above average, 3 would be kind of up and down with the market, 4 would be below average, 5 would be the lowest. It'd be expected to underperform, the average stocks. But it's just like you're saying, it's a technical look.
Okay.
kind of short term, where timeliness would be a little longer term. And then safety is its solvency.
So
Right.
Ron, are you answering, did you answer that first question there?
I answered
The value line?
I think I answered the first one, the first
Okay.
question.
All
Then
right.
Rich answered the technical one. 1 is best, 5 is worst in timeliness. That is correct. Consider 6 month to 12 months view. Yes, that's true. Three is average, meaning it's going nowhere. It's going to follow the market is the way they state it. And could I review the definition of timeliness? Is low a bad number? You want small numbers. 1 is good in timeliness, 1 is good in safety. And it goes to 5 as being the worst. So that's how those work. You always want low numbers when you're looking at it.
Ron, have you used the portfolios at all? I mean, do you take
Yes.
positions on?
Well, yes and no. Again, it's my own style goes beyond value line. I subscribe to several services, and of course, value line now is free, and I use it on a consensus basis. So to that extent, yes, I look at somebody else's portfolio and I say, if both of them have IBM in them, then I guess maybe I should think about buying IBM. I work it that way. So I don't have a portfolio that I have purchased straight out, but that high yield portfolio that we showed at the end of the number 4, I have probably 7 stocks off of that portfolio, but I don't have the whole portfolio. So I use these people as a guide and a quick source of information. So when I want to know a little bit about a company quickly, I find that I can find what I think I need off of Value Line in what's essentially just a few seconds, because I have all the stuff downloaded. So I don't even have to bother to go back into the library.
Have you used the ETF service that I see somebody's asked a question about that?
No, I don't use it. It's not that I don't have any ETFs, but I do not use that service. Again, that would be another one to go for. There's a lot of stuff here that is of interest. In fact, I only got into that climate one because Barron's and all keep screaming that that's the way the world is going to go investing wise. And so I don't want to be on the backside of that. So I'd like to know what is being recommended from this service that I understand how they look at it. So
let's see.
Any other questions?
Tulsi has one more here. It looks like, do you intersect safety dividends with VL safety in securities? Are you interested in evaluating a buy and sell? Tulsi, if you want to unmute your mic, go ahead and.
Yeah. Hit me with that again. I'm not really getting your question.
Tulsi, unmute your mic and yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering if you look at the safety rankings and try to see which one is common with the Simply Safe dividend rank.
No,
Safe.
I do not use Simply Safe at all.
Okay.
Any other questions for Ron? I'm by the way, I just signed up for another service myself, and which does covers a lot of this stuff quickly. Maybe at a future meeting I'll talk about it. It's called Simply Wall Street.
Oh yeah.
I just signed up for it. They had a special deal going, and so I thought, oh, what the hell? I'll give it a try. And so I'll have a review on it basically maybe in a couple of months' time after I've kicked the tires on it for a while. Any other questions for, unmute your mic and ask a question if you have any other questions for Ron.
Okay, I'll unshare.
Okay, all right. Okay. Thanks very much, Ron. Appreciate
You're
the excellent. That was very fantastic. let's see, Rich, you want to start firing up your session?
Sure. Hi, everybody. It's Rich Reinhardt. You know, we're kind of an income focused group, and I don't know, when I turn off my video, you can see a graph, and it shows the top line is going to show returns that are stocks with dividends versus stocks without dividends. And I don't know if you can see the green line above the blue line, but that's looking at stocks that are in the S&P 500, kind of showing the reason why we do like income stocks. And I just wanted to point that out to people. I was the guy back in when Andy had kind of a, you know, looking for 5 or 10 people to pick a stock that would have good income. The one I chose back then was Pfizer, and it was paying a 4.1% dividend. And I believe it was like in the mid 30s, and it had since gone up in the high 30s, low 40s, mid 40s, high 40s. It's up to the mid 50s right now. And the dividend, I think on Friday, was like 2.97. And that's primarily due to the incredible profit made with the COVID vaccines. To finish off, and Ron, I thought that was a great presentation. I like Value Line as well. And I'm going to do a part on that, on how I screen for stocks. And that's pretty much what I choose, is the stocks. And to kind of finish off that question on timeliness, unlike technical's the shorter one. Timeliness looks at a year. But the thing about timeliness is it's derived, you know, by their computer program, but it's using as an input their long-term price changes and long-term earning history, where the technical isn't considering earnings at all. And so that's one of the big differences. And all the data they use is known and is actual. And then one of the overall things when you're on Value Line, you know, everybody's showing dividends, but what I really like about Value Line is you can see what's called dividends, and that's going to give you the last 4 quarters of, you know, what that is, and that's going to show you what the current dividend yield is. But they also have a search term called estimated dividends, and that's using their experts, and it's guessing what the dividends are going to be for the next 4 quarters. So comparing that intersection is kind of an interesting way of looking at stocks, you know, because one of the criteria for selecting is growth in earnings, growth in dividends, stuff like that. And then in terms of that intersection between technical and safety, you know, because we're getting closer and closer to an American cliff, you know, you really want to look at stocks that are either 1 or 2 safety, and that's going to be your most solvent, most bulletproof. Example would be like a MasterCard, which is a 1 timeliness, and it's a 1 safety, and you know, expected to do well. So one of the problems I'm having is sharing screens. It's not one of the options in my pull-up box when I select share, but we figured out a way to get to Value Line anyway. And I'm going to go through bookmark, and I don't know if you can see my screen. Did anybody see my screen? Why isn't this working here?
You're on the library site now.
Okay, great. There we go. Yeah, I was all logged in. I'm not sure why. I've got to go through this again. So I'm going to select research, research tools, and then I'll scroll down to the V's where they have Value Line. And this is how you get it from the library. That's either Washington Library now even has it because of COVID, and then Multnomah always had it online. And yeah, you definitely want to get that. And if you see right below Value Line, you can also look at the Wall Street Journal. So I'm selecting Value Line. And
while he's doing that, by the way, Barron's is also available, I think, through the Washington County Library too. The latest issues.
This thing is being a poop. Wow, what happened? It took me over to Wall Street. You know, it's just,
Yeah.
I'm on a fussy little computer. It's like you gotta click your,
We
You
see the
tap
value
it.
line screen, Rich.
I don't see it, do you?
Yeah, it's you're on the value line screen right now, and you can. It says beginning using the research resource.
Well, not on my screen. All right. Oh, there we go. Yeah. Ah,
You're
now
on-
I'm on some sort of homework center. Oh, come on.
Yeah, mouse may be too thick. It's clicking the wrong place.
Yeah, you know, I've got a special pen cap that I use for tapping on this Samsung tablet. And it's, and before the meeting, I had logged into this so we would be all ready to go. But I guess it timed out. So we'll get there eventually. You know, I want to point out something too while I'm getting there. I came across, there's a new service. It's not available at the library. Because okay, take a look at the quick links. If you see where it's, the blue ones are the ones that we have available at the library, and the brown ones aren't. And there's a new one that started in March. It's called Dividend Inc. Or actually Climate Change is the new one that started in March. But their current portfolio is down 20%. So it's not doing too good. The Dividend Income and Growth one is unavailable through the library. However, if you go on to YouTube and search up for the Value Line channel, and you go to one that's called, I wrote it down, One Dividend Stock to Buy Right Now is the name of the video on the Value Line channel. It will pull up and you can, he's going to actually display the Value Line Select Dividend Income and Growth Stock Fund portfolio. It's a portfolio of 17 stocks, and it was done on September 30th. And on that particular video, they chose Hormel. And yeah, that's correct. The One Dividend Stock to Buy Right Now. And Hormel's symbol was HRL. And they had some good stocks in there, you know, some that we actually probably own and some to look at. AbbVie was one, ABBV. Another one is BMY. One that I've always wanted to buy and never bought, MOLZ. But they also had in there, you know, like Coca-Cola and Pepsi. But, you know, on Coke, they say, you know, hold, don't buy. Just like they had Johnson & Johnson, but that was a hold, don't buy. But yeah, so that's an interesting portfolio. If you want, I could just read off. I wrote down what those stock symbols are on that dividend income portfolio. Or we could do that at the end if you want. Should I do that, Ron?
Well, why don't you go to the screener? Can you get to the screener?
Well, this is the Value Line Dividend Income and Growth. Yeah, I could do the screener.
Let's do the screener first, and then if we have time at
Okay.
the end, we can, you know, you can.
So I clicked on a thing at the top. It said find ideas. And it didn't seem to go anywhere. There we go. Now we got, now scroll down and it's, geez. I don't know. It's kind of rough today for some reason. I don't normally use this computer, but what I'm looking for is that menu.
The screener is up there, second.
There, it's there for a moment. Now it is. Okay, so out of this one, I can select screener, which is the second one on the left. And it's going to give you about 100 different items on this left column that you can screen on. So what I thought we would do is, you know, I would just kind of show you how this works and how I use it. And you can select items. So, for example, like country of domicile, you could click that and you can go, oh, let's take a look at, you know, all the countries that are, well, I don't know where it's going now, but, you know, because a lot of the American stocks are overvalued, you could go is not United States, but for some reason, my screen just grayed out. Let me select industry and we'll just do a screener. Okay, and then, you know, because we're experiencing, inflation at an increasing rate, you know, kind of the precious metals or the metal miners, you know, they have pretty lean balance sheets because of the tough road they've had coming up. And they probably in a crash are going to be good safe havens, you know, and perhaps in a future bidding war. So to select an industry, you just pull down that thing here and you could select what you want. When I had done the presentation, I selected metals and mining. So I'm just going down to the M's and there's metals and mining and you select it. And out of these 1,700 shares or stocks in the value line universe, if you look at the top right, there's 61 matches. And then I'm also going to take another thing and I'm going to look at, you know, I'm looking for growth. So, you know, I want to see at least some sales growth. So in the growth rates, I'm going to grab sales growth because in this market, some are growing and some aren't. And if you look at those sliders there, you can slide them left and right. So I want to show at least some growth. And that's going to take me down to 16 stocks. So there are stocks that had negative growth. And we just don't even want to consider those in this kind of market. And then I'm going to look for total return. So down under projections, you can take a look and they've calculated projected 3 to 5 year annual percent high total return and low total return. Depending on how many of these on the left I select, I sometimes will choose low if I'm being very cautious about an industry. Today, let's use total high. And then there I'm going to select at least an 11% thing here. So see how it goes, like some have an expected negative growth. Yeah, we don't want that. So we're going to go and grab like, say, you know, 10 or 11. And that's 0.11. And so now we've dropped off 5 companies and we've got 11. And I'm going to keep going on the left side here. You know, one of the things that's really going to grow dividends is having good earnings. And I'm looking for a good 3 to 5 year earnings per share growth rate. So let's grab that guy. Again. And let's get at least a 5% growth on that. So when you're looking at the slider box, sometimes you don't want the very tippy top because, you know, that could be some brand new company that's, you know, not very good. But this actually a distribution of lines are actually a graph of each one of those lines represents a company. And by sliding this to the left, if I can grab it, I'm going to take it out to like 5.5 because I want something that's going to grow. Well, we got 5. which is pretty close. So anything that's not growing earnings by at least 5% is going to be excluded. And I'm just going to keep that right at the top, which the best company is showing 85%. But although some have the best number, they're not necessarily the best stock. And then if we come down to valuations, I'm going to select dividend yield. And I'm not going to make any changes there. I'm putting that on so I can have it display. So that's pretty much like 0 to max, you know, so I could see all. And then I'm going to select return to shareholder equity. I've always had good luck with that. That's at the bottom of this valuation grouping. So let's take a look and, you know, give me at least 5%. You know, so I'm going to slide that over. I don't know if I can. Yeah, this is really kind of fussy this way. It's getting me 5.5%. And then see how that shareholder equity is 2,000. You know, there's some nutty company there. And then I'm going to look at some growth. So let's look at, we'll come down here. And each one of these, like if I'm doing a bank or something, I might pop that up and I'm going to look at, say, you know, that would probably be like your margin between what you borrow and what you receive. You know, it would be specific things to that type industry. And under growth rates, we're going to take a look, and I want to see a dividend growth rate because we like dividends that grow. And so you can select 1, 5, or 10. I'm going to go 5. So I want to see some track record, but I don't want somebody who did really good a while ago, you know, not really present. So we'll go back up here. And let's see, where is it? I see my earnings per share. Sales. I guess it didn't select it. I'm just going to go through and grab these. The other thing, considering we're in a tough spot where people are going to have higher and higher hurdle rates, or, you know, it's going to be higher interest rates to borrow money in the future if you assume interest rates go up. So I'm going to look for somebody that's actually growing their cash. You know, I'm looking for cash flow growth as part of, you know, something I'm interested in, just because of where we're at in the market. And there's your cash flow growth. And so let's take another 5-year look at that. And, you know, they'll limit you on how many of those things you can pick. So we'll go in here. And you could see, I'm just kind of scrolling. These are all the various ones that we just selected. And you can see there's a lot of people that don't have cash flow, you know. So let's find somebody that's got some cash flow, and, you know, that whittled away one of them. Okay, we can come down here. And it boiled it down to these 5 companies, all right? What we can do here is if you look at the top where it says criteria, ratings and ranks, estimated projections, and stuff like that, you can pull that stuff up. You also see on the far right side, there's a box with an arrow that's kind of northeast. I'm going to select that, and it's going to throw it out here. And you get a little bit more screen. And then on any of these columns I want to, I can sort it. So if I want to sort on dividend 5-year growth rate, I tap it once and it'll go from low to high. I tap it again and it'll go from high to low. So Southern Copper is showing like they're going to be growing their dividend at 25%. Whereas like RIO, the second one, is going to be growing it at 11%. And those are all really kind of great. The 11, 11 and a half, 5, 5 and a half, those are all good. Now, who's growing their earnings? Now, Kaiser Aluminum, because of what's going on with their whole situation, is probably why they're expecting a negative 5-year earnings per share growth rate. So I would exclude, Kaiser. But I would look further at like these couple. I probably would look at BHP, and do a comparison. And I might even look outside of this category. I would say I can look at these various things. I can scroll left and right and pull up different amounts. The projected high total return, this is based on the analysis from Value Line itself. They're expecting RIO, which would be my pick, honestly, as having the highest total return. So they're showing that they're growing their sales, they're growing their earnings, they're paying a fat 10% dividend yield. But, I want to know what that expected yield is too. And I'm not seeing that. Let me pull up this here. So I just tap on RIO, and now I'm going to pull up for that individual stock. And it's going to give me kind of a look at it. And it's a $61 stock right now. Its price to earnings is 5.4 going backwards. The dividend yield is 10.6. And then further down, I believe it's got what we're looking at. If you close this yellow box there, you can get at the various PDF reports that are underneath that. Although it's not really displaying on my screen right. Close that there. A couple of things just looking at the very top here. They also do this new thing where they're expecting a price target for this $60 stock to be $105 to $155 in about 3, 4, or 5 years from now. And then what they'll do is they will average that target price and calculate what they believe it would be in about 18 months and call that midpoint between 105. If I averaged 105 and 155, I'd average that 50% midpoint. It'd be $97, and then they're expecting in about 18 months it could be as low as 58 or as high as 136. That second line tells you out of all those industries that Ron had showed us, metals and mining is now 30 out of those 97 industries. And they have a little bar there. It gives you kind of a visual of where that's at, but it's the top third. And then you've got your ranks, and, a 3 safety rank is okay, like the MasterCard or Visa rather, that's going to have like a safety of 1, and timeliness has been downgraded just because I think they're feeling, demand might not be there. What's interesting under, say, for example, the timeliness thing, you see there's really nobody is in the 1s right now. They've got 4 in the 2s and several in the 3s, and that's where it kind of is. If you touch that, it will tell you what the name of that company is. Like, this is Natural Resource, or this one here is Allegheny. Or if you go up here, that's London. I actually own London, by the way, LUN on the Toronto. And it's been a good earner. So I'm trying to tap that very first one. And so, in the timeliness ranking, which is that, taking the past data and looking out 1 year, they're liking this one, Cameco. Anyway, on financial strength, it's very strong. And it's probably because it's got good sales, good margin, good cash flow. If we look over here, where it is with its peers, that's another column that's showing other companies in that industry, and it's one of the top, right? And then same in its industry. And then in its survey, you can actually tick on, touch that explain, and it will tell you, you know, how it calculated that survey. I'll do that as an example. And it goes, we track 1,700 companies and about 100 industries. Over there, it said 97. Anyway, I look for growing sales. I see my sales growing. I'm looking for increased cash flow. It's going from $7.77 on up to 10.34. I like that. I like when I see those little orange locks, because Value Line is also used by professional investors. And a lot of times when I see those, they're locking it out for some reason because they don't want us to have it. But to me, it kind of is a backwards way of telling me, oh, that might be something good. They're just not, you know, really revealing. You know, a big thing that I worry about is debt, and the debt seems roughly stabilized, and the margin has improved. And that's very important, you know, in this kind of climate. But a lot of these mining companies and even the precious metals, which I've bought recently and I think are probably a good way to play the inflation, have cleaned up their balance sheets quite a bit because they had kind of a rough go of it. You know, I think gold is down to, you know, 1,790, you know, should get over to Kitco and get some. Anyway, return on shareholder equity, something that looks like a great number there at 26.5, and a big return on the capital. And then the all dividends to net profits shows you what you've got going there. And if you wanted to understand the rating definitions when you're in the screen, you could click that. And it's going to tell you that, you know, those number A is going to be A double plus. And I think investor quality, you don't go below like B++ or something like that. Anyway, if you look in that box on the right, 3 to 5 year projections, this is where the stock price is in that first box, and where it's expected to range, which was that 100 to 150 range. And then there's the value line, which is what the service was named after. It's a measure that is multiplied by its cash flow per share that their analysts have chosen for this particular industry typically, but specifically for this stock, they're tracking a line that's 8 times cash flow. And that'll be the solid line that's on a regular PDF. And then the last projection is like ... So if you annualize the return, they're expecting us to return about a 13 to 25% total, combination of your dividends and appreciation. Then you've got the commentary, which you always want to read, and they're going to talk about, you know, what they're doing. And it'll also have in that gray box what's going on. So they're saying the price is getting a little more persistent, but technically that's that 3 to 6 month that, you know, doesn't even look at earnings, but just looks at what's been going on lately, is what, you know, what you should note. And then it always has very good information in here. Typically, it tells me what analyst wrote it, because some analysts are better than others. So I would just kind of, you know, go through this. And so it's saying they're neutrally ranked for the year ahead. They suggest this ADR offers solid total return for the next 3 to 5 years. Dividend size is great. Conservative investors should note the payout, which is expected to run 40 to 60% of the operating profits, which can be quite variable. Oh, there's the guy, Adam Rosner. Yeah, I haven't heard of him. And you can print that out, I suppose. And then I would come down to the valuations. And I'm going to look, one of the things that jumps out about midway down is the common shares outstanding. And this is jumping out at me because I see in 2016 there was 1,800,000 shares, and then less shares. So they're expecting the shares, which is going to be buybacks. So each slice of the pie is getting bigger. That's really kind of a nice thing to see. And the long-term debt is, although it's substantial, is pretty flat. Shareholder equity is increasing. Looking back up at the top, I'm looking for sales growth, and I'm seeing some nice sales growth. Cash flow is looking real strong. Earnings per share, fine. That's because, you know, it's got the low PE. Shareholder equity is holding up. And then relative PE is very low. But if you're in a market that might go off a cliff, there's, you know, the alpha component, which is that individual stock's ability to outperform the market. And then there's the market beta, which is, you know, how sensitive it is to the overall markets up and down. And to a degree, it's relative PE compared to other PEs relative to that company in that particular industry is like a 0.38, a 0.47, 0.56. So that gives me a better feel for its stability. In other words, they're probably still going to be, you know, mining iron ore and gold, silver, and all the other stuff they do, regardless of what the market's going to do. And then we're looking at the average annual dividends, and those have been at 4.9, 5.3, 5.9, 6.7. You know, we certainly like to see that. And the operating margin is helping to pay for some of those dividends because that also has improved. And if you look at the earnings, they're not really giving us a lot to work with there for some reason. I just hit the annual button, and again, it's kind of boxed out something there. Who knows why? And then here's their sales as it's been going, kind of up and down. And then on this total return percent, this is an interesting segment of the screen. And it's calculating your total return, you know, for the 1 year, 3 years, and 5 years, how it's been doing. And it's also throwing up those other stocks that were in our sort. So there's that BHP, which has also done quite well. And probably, you know, these things have done pretty good. So the prices are somewhat reflecting that already. You can actually tap on those, and there's some more information underneath them. And then let's come down here. You got your annual rates of change, and we can look at dividends. So I'll click on that, and this is showing me their growth rates and what they're looking like. So I'm looking at the rolling average for the 5-year growth rates. I'm looking at the 1-year growth rates. I can look at the book value, though never really has done much for me, in the earnings, which I always find very important, and I get a good view of them. In that center box, you've got the score ratings, and those are just big. A lot of times people, I think the pros will screen on those. And, you know, it's nice to have a company that's very, you know, has very consistent growing earnings and dividends and sales price and, you know, the stock price. And these are the ones that show it. And they show you in the industry. So for price stability, it's that solid blue in that top tier of the 50%, because they don't really have a lot going on there, you know, and earnings predictability, you know, that's going to be a problem with that industry. But you can go down into any of these, and like that stock is unknown to us. That one we know is Hudbay. You know, that one's ATI. You know, there's that London again. This guy here would be probably the top dog. And that's, US Lime and Mineral. That's actually a good stock too. Yeah. So the next box is peers, and it shows you how they are relative to their peers. And you can look at this in various ways. The green bar is going to be the company we're reviewing, which is Rio. And then that gray bar is going to be what the industry is looking at. And then if we look at that vertical line, that gives you, you know, from the top to the bottom of companies in that category or that industry, you know, or that sub-industry. And then the blue is, you know, how spread across that distribution they are, you know, how deviated they are from each other. So it tells me looking at the first one where it's PE, the PE is very low. The green one is, that's Rio, and boy, they're way down there, where somebody else would be, much higher. Relative PE, that would be the 50% mark. Oh, there's BHP that we were looking at. So, we're still very, relative. And then in terms of dividend yields, like we're getting, a very big one. Vail is also very high. There's one I'm unfamiliar with. And, these have, that was much higher when I bought it. And then some of these are the lower ones. And I can look at that in a table form if I want. I can, look at them and they're all, pretty safe. And then this is their other ratings. And can populate that as well when it works. The next box down here is your industry analysis. It tells me that it's the 30th out of 97. And we saw earlier on Ron's that the computer internet was the highest, which also had a supplement report from 2 days ago on Baba, which is a stock I have. That's Alibaba. And I saw that that's down to 111. And I know Warren Buffett's co-chair bought a bunch of that at 160. So for some reason it keeps going down. But that tells you about what's going on with that industry. And you can also read more about it. This is an example of what's happening with the insiders. And there's no buying and holding on this particular one. But it looks, gives you kind of a trend. And no real information there. Institutional ownership, it's kind of like tells you that more institutions have recently bought it, because that blue one is showing what percent that is, although that's not a real high percent. It's showing that there's more buyers than sellers, on out to the third quarter. And we can click on the top holders. And it looks like it's a bunch of funds. And then if we look at that, we can go, wow, that iShares International really has a lot of it, because that's 20% of their portfolio. But, MSCI, we're familiar with some of those. Although honestly, it looks like Value Line and BlackRock own 7% of every company in the world nowadays. Honestly. Business owner view gives you more information on that. You can go back and get some more of the history if it's available. The technical rank has been downgraded, and that means, over the next 1 to 2 quarters, it doesn't look as attractive as your average in that industry. So below that shows you how that kind of oscillates. So if you just look at our year, it's gone from when it was, the very highest ranking, and it's a 1 on down to, a 4 just recently. It was a 3 for a long period. And if you see that teeny little blue line at the bottom in the 4 category, shows that it just got downgraded. That might trigger some people to sell, and we might even get a better price. And then the last bottom right box is the Value Line PDF reports. And the latest one would be October 1st. Unfortunately, because I'm not sharing my screen, I only went to a bookmark. If I press on that, it won't come up. But, that's the typical way to look at it. It's a real nice 1-page reference that covers all this information. This is the new way of doing it, which is, I don't know, no better, no worse. It's just kind of what you're interested in. So I guess just to kind of recap, we went through the Value Line screener, and we were looking at an industry called metals and mining. And out of that, we picked a company called Rio, R-I-O. So that would be one to go take a look on Morningstar, take a look on, NASDAQ, take a look on Fast Graphs. Is it making sense? Is it, the mine's coming online or not? What else is happening? So that's pretty much how I would do it. And it's just a wealth of information in here under these things you can screen on. If you go way up to the top, you can go under value line preset screens. And those are ones that Ron was showing us. And you can go for some of these other items, you know, and you may want to screen. Some people screen for, you know, bad stocks that are doing very poorly and looking for bargains, you know, picking up cigar butts. So there's all sorts of different ways of working it. The one criteria I wanted to pull up though was expected dividend growth, because, you know, we can get dividend yields everywhere, but expected dividend yields, you know, that seems quite powerful. And I'm trying to find that. Not sure where I'm going to find that.
Rich,
There it is.
on the expected dividend yields, that's their analysts only, their estimates for what they think the dividend yield is going to be, right? I mean, is that?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
right.
Okay.
Yeah, so here they're looking out into the next 4 quarters. So everybody that pulls up anything anywhere else, they're going to get a look at what the last 4 quarters were,
Yeah.
which is nice information to have, but it's nothing that's going to go in my pocket. To me, it's like watching a TV show and it goes, oh, look at this great stock. Boy, it would have been great if you bought it a year ago. Now we're talking about it, you know, where this one's actually looking out into the future. Yeah. So let's just look at estimated dividends per share. Let's just kind of wrap this up. Let me try.
While you're doing that, by the way, for everybody else, if you go to the Yahoo Finance site, they will have usually the analyst forecast for dividend growth as well. And usually they'll show the number of analysts and the median and the high and the low. So, you know, you could use that also as a frame of reference when you're looking at this value line sort as well. I've used that a couple of times myself and found it very informative. Because what you're looking at here is, I guess, an analyst, just the value line analyst who did the numbers here, and whereas you're getting a, you know, kind of a crowdsourced number from Yahoo Finance.
Yeah, so I would almost say, you know, I like value line. They're kind of remind me of Consumer Reports for stocks.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, they're a service unto themselves. They make money subscribing. They don't really have any sell side trolls that are going to be screwing with people, getting people into things that might not necessarily be good for them. Mm-hmm. So I selected estimated dividends 2.81% to 4%. There's 73 of those companies. I didn't go real high because as people are finding out, you know, when AT&T looked really great when it had the super high dividend and, you know, it looked like such a good buy, turns out it really wasn't because the stock probably went down 40%, you know. So out of here, these are the dividends selected, you know, and they're showing Accenture, which is actually a stock I own. That's been a good little money maker. They've rebranded themselves a logistic company, but these are the ones that have those estimated dividends. And then you could also, out of these 73 stocks, let's take a look at this one category here, estimates and projections. And then let's see who's going to be growing the dividends the most. So I click on that once and it'll go low to high. I click on it a second time and these are the highest growers. So Darden Restaurants, Pool Corp, Lowe's, Parker Hannifin, you know, these guys are showing the highest dividend projected growth. So out of this list, Domino's kind of strikes me as a winner because, you know, they've trained everybody through COVID to just have food come to their door. And they do a lot of the, you know, social media type selling to the younger crowd to get, you know, pizzas. And pizzas are like dry cleaners. They've been around forever. Very cheap to make. You get a lot of margin. You get the repeat business, you know. So you could pull over those things and you can go, oh, okay, so Domino's is expecting to grow sales at 11%. They got a 15% cash flow. Earnings per share is growing 15, you know, kind of like that guy, you know. depending on what his dividend is. So that's another way to pull it up. So I guess if I was doing a search, I would do that estimated dividend, but then I would also make sure I'm pulling in their current paid dividend, so I know where I'm at, because they could have a big growth, but they're going from 0.8% versus 3% would be huge. So basically, that's what I've got for you guys.
Okay,
Hopefully that was helpful for you.
Why don't you click on the chat function, and there's a few chat questions there. Either you or Ron can answer if you would like. Let's see, I see one on one dividend stock to buy right now.
Andrea, okay. One dividend stock to buy right now. She's absolutely correct. That is the search term for the video that on the Value Line channel that one of the analysts that I like, they put out these videos on YouTube now. So you go to Value Line and then you select that one, and it's going to pull up a presentation on the Value Line dividend income and growth that's unavailable at the library. And then he's going to go through it, but as he's going to pick one company, kind of using the screener like I do, and he's also given his wisdom about what he looks for when he's screening for a stock. It results at the end of the video, he selects Hormel chili, which is actually in 80 countries. So you're getting, and their stock symbol is HRL, like Hilo Romeo Lima. And if you go to that video at the 4-minute, 2-second mark, you hit pause and it's going to freeze, and you could actually see what their service has recommended. And those 17 stocks are ABBV, ATO, BK. I could read these slower. It'll take me about 30 seconds to read them. And I'll just read what they're selecting if you got your pen handy. This is what's in the dividend income and growth product that's brand new to Value Line. So the first one is ABBV, that's AbbVie. Next one is ATO. The next one is BK. The next one is BMY. The next one is CHRW. The next one is KO, Coke. The next one is ITW, Illinois Tool. The next one is IFF, International Fragrance. I've made money with that. J&J, which they say hold now, Johnson & Johnson. MTB, MOLZ, which that's that beverage company, which I should have bought and never did. PKG, like packaging. I don't know anything about it, but it's got a cute name. PEP, Pepsi. I like them better than Coke because they got the snack business. They sell Doritos. TM, that's when they say hold. UNP, as in Paul. UNH, United Health, they're also saying hold. And the last one, VZ, Verizon. So maybe Verizon over AT&T. But yeah, that was it. And then what was that again to look at in addition to dividend growth? I would say total return, sales, the health of the company, so as well as its timeliness ranks. I want to see that their stocks are, flat or buying back. And then I'm also going to look for something that's not necessarily reflected in the numbers. For example, when I picked Pfizer, I looked at Value Line and screened for it and liked it. And I liked it better than Merck and a couple others, like GSK was the runner up to that. And, but what I knew that was beyond the numbers was that they're really going to be locking everybody into this vaccine business. And I looked at how profitable that business was and how it would be if, you can get, say $25 to $500 out of every human on the planet. So, I think that's another thing that's more of a qualitative look at stocks beyond just this type of qualitative stuff. And I think, because we're small potatoes, we can buy and sell stuff. Nobody's looking over our shoulder. And I think we can move a lot quicker, all things being equal.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's it.
Well, thanks, Rich. Ron, any more questions for Rich or Ron before we kind of wrap things up here? It looks like we've had two very, very good presentations. You might want to check, I live in, for example, Washington County, and I have a library card for Multnomah County, and I guess that's okay, you can do that. And so you don't have to live in the county where you want to use the value line. And Washington County has finally started to put the value line online, and they haven't done that for years. And I guess they only started doing it after after the COVID situation arose. So, but the Multnomah County Library is in it. So any questions for Ron or Rich by any chance before we wrap up here? And Todd, if you can unmute your mic, you might want to chat in about what's happening with, the main chapter, if you have any inputs for us.
Thank you, Andy. We're working on some events for next year. I don't have anything definite to report today, but keep watching your email and for any updates on that.
Okay. Well, thanks. I'll keep that in mind. So any more questions for Ron or Rich?
Hey, Andy, I actually have a question.
Yeah.
That I kind of went through the criteria I use for selecting stocks. Anybody else want to discuss anything different that they might use for their screening of stocks?
Well, yeah, I can just from my own point of view, I usually start with the inverse of the price to earnings ratio. In other words, I want to see a year earnings yield of at least 6.5%, which is the inverse of 15 times earnings. And so I usually start with that, and then go from there. And then I look for a dividend yield. I don't know, maybe about 3.5% if I can get it, and then a growth of something on the order of maybe 4 to 5%. I'd like the sum of the two, the yield plus the growth of the yield, to be around 10% if I can get it. It's been harder the last few years to get that because I think most of the stocks, unfortunately, are overvalued. In general, that's just my take on it. I'm going to stop the recording because I think if we're going to continue this, we can do that without recording the rest of it. I just want to make sure that, let me just take the screen back here and do that, and then we can chat further. Just a reminder to everybody that we have our Google groups, and I see guys posting on there all the time. That's great. Lots of discussion about IBM and AT&T. Looks like that's going well. Let's see what else I can say. Oh, and don't forget, we have on the Portland website, we have the income group videos as well as the main chapter videos. So by all means, don't hesitate to go there, and we'll put this recording up there as well. And of course, as Todd mentioned, we've got a lot of plans going on for next year, and I'm sure Todd will tell us all about it when he gets them firmed up a little bit. Just a closing comments before I stop recording, and then everybody can stay online if they wanted to comment. I'm always looking for ideas for income growth oriented ideas. And so if you've got a speaker or a guy but again, it has to be income oriented. I don't want to go into areas where we don't have, our charter doesn't allow us to do that. But by all means, keep using the Google groups, and by all means. So just to wrap it up, our next meeting will be January the 9th. And I'll send out a notice when we get closer to that. I'm trying to line up a technical analysis guy who does some income investing. And then, of course, Hagerman might be from the AAI headquarters, might be a possible speaker. And I've got a couple of other ideas that are churning around too as well. So that's pretty much it from that point of view. Let me stop the recording here, and I'll say, hope to see everybody soon. I will stop the recording, and everybody wants to stick around and talk or chat a little more, by all means,